My sister slapped my baby at Christmas dinner, then my military colonel husband stood up. The sound of a spoon tapping against a glass echoed softly. Warm yellow light filled the lavishly decorated dining room, candles, ribbons, and a towering Christmas tree reaching the ceiling. The scene was like a perfect photo straight out of Pinterest. My 6-month-old son began to stir in his high chair. A faint noise, a slight whimper. The sleepiness from a long trip had made him irritable. Across the table, my sister Lana was still speaking into the camera, her smile wide as she raised a glass of wine, as if filming a Christmas wine commercial. Then it happened. "Oh my God, can someone shut him up?" Lana snapped, suddenly turning and slapping Ethan hard across the cheek. A full-force swing, a sharp smack, echoed through the crowded room. Everyone was stunned. I was frozen. My eyes widened, and my heart seemed to stop. Ethan stopped crying. A silent second passed, then a piercing wail burst from his tiny chest. He cried as if the world had shattered, his cheek flushed bright red with the mark of her hand. No one said a word. No one stood up. Not a single heavy breath was drawn. My father froze, spoon suspended midair. My mother turned away, as if she had seen nothing. Lana still held her hand in the air, then shrugged. "He's fine." I wanted to stand, but my body refused to move. I turned to my left and saw Jackson, my husband, a United States Army colonel. In full dress uniform, medals gleaming on his left chest, a man who had commanded hundreds of soldiers in brutal war zones. He rose slowly without a word. The room seemed to shrink. No one dared move as he took a step forward. He stopped and faced the cameraman still holding the camera, unsure what to do. Jackson's voice rang out, clear and commanding like a military order, "Turn off that camera." The little red light went dark. The air stiffened. My hands gripped the tablecloth, Ethan still crying, his sobs trembling. And I realized tonight was not just a Christmas dinner. It was the moment everything I believed about family, protection, and love began to fall apart. What happened next didn't just change that night. It changed everything I thought I knew about love, loyalty, and what it means to be a parent. Before we begin, I have a question for you. If you ever found yourself in a situation where you had to stand up to protect your child even if that meant going against your own family, what would you do? Today's story is not just about a slap. It's about silence, courage, and the ultimate limits of unconditional love. Where are you watching this video from? Please leave the name of your city or country in the comments. I'd love to know who I'm sharing this story with. And if you believe the truth should never be hidden, please like, share this video with those who need to hear it, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next stories. I am the second child in the family. People always call me easygoing, quiet, and gentle, compliments that sound pleasant at first but gradually become a cloak for being forgotten. Lana, my older sister, was different. From the moment she was born, she was special. She was born prematurely, underweight, and spoke more slowly than other children. At age 3, doctors diagnosed Lana with sensory processing disorder and recommended early intervention. From that point on, every glance, every ounce of patience, every financial resource was poured into her. I grew up in the shadow of someone who needed to be absolutely prioritized. I was never angry at Lana. How could I be angry at a child who did not choose the way she was born? But I resented the way my parents treated us, as if only one child needed protection. I remember once when I had a high fever, trembling alone in my room because my mother was busy, comforting Lana, who was upset just because the kitchen light flickered. I remember in 7th grade when I won a statewide academic award, my whole family forgot to celebrate because Lana had received her first C on a social studies essay that same day. I learned one thing. If you don't cause trouble, you will be forgotten. If you're good, then no one pays attention. As Lana grew up, she became a healer, at least online. She built a perfect personal brand. The Balanced Nest, a place sharing videos about family, motherhood, inner healing, mindfulness, meditation, and mindful parenting. Lana never married. She has no children. But the internet does not care about reality. It only needs pretty pictures, sweet words, and warm filters. She has more than 500,000 followers on Instagram, publishes self-help books, and appears on talk shows about how to create a loving family without control. It sounds great until you realize she is the one controlling everything to a pathological degree, even Christmas dinner. This year was the first time we came home for the holidays. My husband, Colonel Jackson, had just completed a 9-month deployment in Kuwait. Our firstborn son, Ethan, had just turned 6 months old. I had imagined this moment all year long. My parents would cheer when they saw their first grandchild. Lana would hug me after all these years. And we, a family once broken, would have a chance to heal. But when we arrived, no one came out to greet us. No, welcome back, no eyes welling up with tears. My mother only asked, "Why isn't Ethan wearing red? Your sister sent the dress code weeks ago." I stood there in the kitchen, holding sleepy Ethan. The house was filled with the scent of cinnamon, hot apple cider, and the sound of Lana's hairdryer from her room. She arrived 2 hours late, entering like a diva wearing a red velvet dress, flawless makeup, followed by 2 cameramen with lights and microphones. No one asked if Ethan was okay. No one asked how Jackson felt after returning from the dusty desert and the sound of artillery fire. All anyone said was, "Lana needs a moment to set up the camera angle. Please do not enter the dining room until the lights are fully on." At that moment, I realized this was not a reunion dinner. My dining room, once the place for childhood birthday parties, had transformed into a lavish film set. On the walls hung red velvet backdrops that covered the old family photos. Soft LED lights were strung across the ceiling, their colors adjusted carefully so everyone's skin looks good on camera. Lana stood in the middle, adjusting the wireless microphone clipped to her collar, then turned to everyone. "Okay, segment 1, candid family shots. Everyone please sit down and talk comfortably. Smile naturally. If you can hug each other, even better." I had just placed Ethan into the high chair we brought from home, the only thing that truly belonged to my family, when a cameraman approached. "Can you shift him a little to the left?" The shadows cutting into the frame. Jackson looked at me but said nothing. Yet I could see doubt creeping into his eyes. The dinner began not with an invitation to eat or a congratulatory remark, but with Lana's cue. And rolling. "Okay, take 1. Gratitude speech." She raised her glass, stood tall, eyes fixed on the lens. "This year, I'm beyond grateful for the power of family, for togetherness, and for the messy, beautiful chaos that is love in its truest form." Every word she spoke seemed pre-written. Every furrow of her brow, every glance around the table was perfectly timed for the camera. Throughout the more than 7-minute speech, she did not mention Jackson's recent long mission in the Middle East. She did not mention Ethan, family's first grandchild present for the first time at the Christmas party. It was just her, the camera, and her personal brand. When the director called cut, the atmosphere in the room softened. People leaned forward to get their food as if escaping a long take. My mother immediately checked the table arrangement to ensure Lana's plate remained spotless, free of any sauce drips. And me? I was trying to soothe Ethan. The baby started fussing, perhaps from the noise, the lights, and the unfamiliar faces. His tiny body jerked lightly with each cry. I bent down, whispering gently, "Mommy's here. Mommy's here." Jackson placed his hand on my shoulder. "Maybe we should take him outside for a bit. This atmosphere feels suffocating." I nodded. But before I could stand, Lana interrupted. "Wait, where are you going?" "We're about to film the candid interaction shots," I whispered. "He's uncomfortable. I want to hold him outside for a little calm." Lana waved her hand, frowning. "It's fine. A little crying adds authenticity. Let him be. Real moments, remember?" She signaled the cameraman to return to position. The LED lights shone directly onto Ethan's face again. His cries escalated from soft whimpers to choking sobs. I turned to my mother, hoping for a nod, some sign of sympathy. But she quietly poured wine, not looking at me. Kids are like that. Cry a bit, "Then stop," she said like a machine. I clenched my fists, trying to hold back tears. Jackson sat silently, back straight, hands resting on his thighs, clenched into fists. Then Lana turned back. "Seriously, can we do something about the noise?" she snapped. "I'm trying to get usable footage here." I had just picked up Ethan, preparing to leave the chair, when Lana stepped forward, snatched the toy from his hand, and swung her hand, slapping him across the cheek. The sharp smack echoed like a whip. Ethan froze. The whole room went still. His cheek flushed bright red, tears streaming down both sides of his face, and I couldn't hear anything anymore. It felt like blood rushed to my ears. Every sound was muffled. Every word meaningless. Only one voice rang out, low and cold, from across the table, "Turn off that camera." Jackson's voice reverberated through the room, not loud, not harsh, but so decisive that everything stopped. The cameraman looked uneasy. He turned to Lana, waiting for a signal. But for the first time that evening, Lana was silent. The lights went out. The room sank into real light, no more artificial sunlight from studio lamps. Only the heavy atmosphere and Ethan's painful sobs in my arms remained. Jackson stepped beside me, calm and deliberate. He bent down, gently taking Ethan, as if the boy was the most precious thing in the universe. He checked Ethan's cheek. The left cheek was flushed, marked clearly with a small but distinct handprint. I heard Jackson take a deep breath. Not out of anger but restraint. "You just slapped my son," he said, still calm, not yelling, not shaking. "He's 6 months old. He doesn't understand boundaries. He only understands pain." His words hit like a slap not to Lana's cheek, but to the conscience of everyone in that room. Lana immediately stepped back, hands on her hips, smirking with a mocking glance. "You're overreacting." It was just a touch. I was trying to reset the energy. He was disrupting the whole segment. She called that moment a segment as if my son was just a bad actor. I felt my shoulders tremble with anger. Jackson looked at her not with fury, but with utter disappointment. "You're not his parent. You don't get to touch him. Ever. For any reason." She gave a bitter laugh. "This is ridiculous. He's a baby. Babies cry." "I was just slapping him?" Jackson interrupted. "On camera?" No one intervened. No defense came from my father, who sat motionless like a statue. No shock from my mother, who quietly poured more wine. No one said "don't be angry." No one said she didn't mean it. No one dared to say a word. As for me, I just stood there, empty inside. My hands hung uselessly at my sides. I didn't know what to do with myself. I couldn't believe what had just happened. And even more unbelievable, no one but Jackson saw that it was wrong. My husband held Ethan close to his chest, gently patting his back. My son curled up as if trying to burrow deeper into his father's embrace. Jackson turned to Lana one last time. "You say you believe in healing, in safe spaces, in love without harm. But what you did tonight and what everyone else allowed is the opposite of that." Then he looked at me. "We're leaving," he said, his voice low but rock solid. "And we won't be back until someone takes accountability." No one tried to stop us. No apologies were offered. No footsteps followed. Only the steady thud of military boots on the wooden floor and the sound of the door opening, taking us back out into the cold where snow was falling lightly. And I realized the chill outside wasn't as bitter as the cold inside the hearts of my own family. We got home close to midnight. Ethan had fallen asleep on Jackson's shoulder, his cheeks still marked faintly pink. I quickly bathed him, dried him with a warm towel, and applied some gentle moisturizer as the doctor had advised. He had no fever, no vomiting, no signs of serious injury. But I felt as though I had just fallen into a bottomless pit. I sat on the edge of the bed, watching Jackson change our son's clothes. The soft yellow nightlight cast a glow on his neatly cropped hair. "Do you think I overreacted?" I asked without meeting his eyes. Jackson paused. He laid Ethan down in the crib, carefully pulled the blanket up, then came back to sit beside me. You're asking if protecting your child is an overreaction? I was silent. The next morning, I woke early because Ethan was restless. He was still half asleep, softly moaning, his head rubbing lightly against my shoulder as if seeking safety in his sleep. His cheeks were still a little red but no longer swollen. I gently put him back in his cradle and drew back the curtains so sunlight could filter through the window cracks. Then my phone rang. The first call was from my mother. I answered, barely greeting her before she spoke. "Child, I think you're making a big deal out of this." I said nothing. Kids cry all the time, and who hasn't accidentally been a bit rough? Everyone was tired and stressed then. You have to understand your sister too. I looked at Ethan. His cheek was less red, but the mark still stood out clearly on his skin. That accidental slap had been imprinted on my son's face not just by force, but by attitude. By the way, the entire room had silently agreed that Ethan was an accessory, not a person. My mother continued, "Your sister is famous. She has to hold up her brand. Making such a fuss like this only harms her. I'm not taking sides, but you should see the bigger picture." I hung up the phone. No arguments, no explanations. Because I knew if I spoke up, I'd be labeled stubborn, oversensitive, or shameful to the family. 30 minutes later, my father called. "I think Jackson overreacted. You married a soldier. You should understand discipline is necessary. Sometimes, kids need to be reminded." I asked, "You mean a 6-month-old baby needs to be slapped?" He hesitated, then changed the subject. "Girls these days get too emotional. Don't let a small thing ruin the bigger picture." The bigger picture? My son was a small thing? Then came a message from Lana. No apology. No question like, "How is Ethan?" Only one line. "You've broken me. You've destroyed my brand. Do you know I already scheduled work with the television station?" I held the phone, staring at the screen, not knowing how to reply. Every message, every word, was like a small stone thrown into the calm lake inside me, stirring up a storm I thought I had left behind since childhood. I began to wonder, am I really overreacting? Am I really as sensitive as everyone says? Did I imagine the slap? Maybe Lana was just careless? Maybe no one really intended to hurt anyone? The last question terrified me the most, because I had asked it too many times before. When I was little. When Lana blamed me for Grandma's fall. When I was locked outside the yard because I spilled Mom's soup that Lana knocked over. When I told the truth but was told to shut up or the family will fall apart. My body remembers every time I was taught to doubt myself. Jackson, or rather, David, his real name that I rarely use, walked into the room carrying a cup of coffee for me. He sat down, gently placed the cup on the table, and looked me straight in the eyes. "You're starting to doubt yourself, aren't you?" he said softly. I nodded. "You're not sure anymore. You see everyone united, but you," David interrupted. "I've seen my soldiers doubt their memories, doubt their feelings, even doubt their own pain. Just because their superiors told them that's training. Gaslighting is a form of psychological warfare. No one hits you, they just make you think you're hurting yourself." I went still. David opened his phone. "Last night, I took a picture of Ethan's cheek. Here. Here's your mother's message. Here's Lana's message. And here's a recording of your father's call. I saved it for you as evidence, if you need it. If you don't trust your memory, trust the recorded truth." He looked up, eyes never leaving mine. The important question is, do you trust your own eyes? Or do you trust the people who trained you not to trust yourself? I burst into tears. Not because I was hurt, but because I was finally believed. For the first time, someone stood by me, not letting me be easy to raise, easy to forget, easy to forgive just because the family thought it was no big deal. And I knew this battle wouldn't end just because I stayed silent. I had begun to heal. Partly thanks to Jackson. Thanks to Ethan peacefully sleeping in his crib, his tiny hand still clutching the edge of the blanket like holding onto something real. But I still couldn't sleep. Something was unsettled. Then the phone rang. Aunt Helen. My mother's sister. The rare woman in the family who had genuinely asked if I was okay, instead of, "Why are you making a fuss?" I picked up, Aunt didn't beat around the bush. This wasn't the first time Lana hurt a child. I jumped up. What do you mean? I mean, I saw it before, and I regret not saying anything back then. Aunt began to tell a story I had never heard before, but once I did, all my memories seemed to ignite with a haunting flame. When I was 12, relatives came to visit. My cousin June, only 3 years old, ran around the garden with Lana, who was 16 then. Aunt Helen stood in the kitchen, watching through the window. June was giggling, then suddenly fell face first to the ground, hitting her head on the wooden chair. Blood flowed. Everyone rushed out. Lana ran over, holding June, crying like rain. She fell, she was running too fast. Everyone believed her. Aunt Helen did not. She had seen from the window Lana push her. After that, June was afraid of Lana, but didn't dare speak up. Whenever Aunt asked, June shook her head. Her eyes were wide with terror. A week later, Aunt found a note in June's toy basket. "If you tell, I will cut your doll's hair and flush it down the toilet." It was Lana's handwriting. Aunt recognized it immediately. She showed it to my mother. But her only response was, "Helen, she's special, you know that. She can't control her emotions. But she loves her sister." Your mother didn't want a fuss. Didn't want outsiders judging, so she told Aunt to keep quiet. Aunt obeyed. But today, her voice choked up. Today I see it happening again. I can't stay silent anymore. I fell silent. All the pieces began to fit together like a map that had been hidden from me throughout my childhood. It wasn't because I was overly sensitive. It wasn't because I was paranoid. It was because an entire system had been built to enable and tolerate this behavior. I recalled my parents' eyes whenever I achieved something or was sick, always hurried, because Lana wasn't okay. I remember the time Lana shouted at my boyfriend during a family dinner just because he was chewing gum, and my father simply said, "Cut her some slack. She's sensitive to noise." Cut her some slack. I had heard those words my whole life, but only ever applied to one side. I went into the study. Jackson saw me, his brow furrowing. "Why are you still up?" "I need to do this, before I let it fall into silence again like before." I opened my laptop and typed out each trembling line. Subject: Potential Risk Report regarding contact with minors. I created a new folder named Protecting Ethan. I gathered everything. The Christmas Eve video, saved a backup copy when I saw Lana live streaming. Messages from Aunt Helen, the recording of her call, a screenshot of the old threatening note from June, which Aunt still kept, and Lana's recent post where she said, "Excited to start a kids' mindfulness workshop next spring." I did not hate Lana, but I could not allow another child to suffer the way my son did. Or June. And if my family didn't understand responsibility, I would be the first to start. 3 days after submitting the report to Child Protective Services, I received a letter sent by email and express delivery. The sender: the law office representing Lana. The subject line: cease and desist and non-disclosure statement. The first page read, "Our client, Miss Lana Elise Monroe, demands that you immediately cease all acts of sharing, distributing, or interpreting information that affects her reputation, personal brand, and business career." The last page bore bold red letters, like blood. Continued dissemination of this information may be considered defamatory and carry serious legal consequences. I sat silently, gripping the letter tightly, my heart cold as stone. Jackson picked up the letter and read it. When he finished, he didn't get angry. He simply set the letter down, took out his phone, and called the military legal advisor he had served with. After a few greetings, he handed the phone to me. "Truth is a legal defense," the lawyer said clearly and firmly. "You are not defaming anyone when you speak the truth, especially when it concerns the safety of children. As long as you don't fabricate, exaggerate, or lie, law will stand by you." I breathed out deeply for the first time in many days. "So, if someone asks, can I answer?" If you only speak what you witnessed. Exactly. But remember, let the truth speak instead of emotions. Emotions can be attacked, truth cannot. That very evening, I received an unexpected call. Hello, this is Eric McMillan, a producer at Family One Television. We are currently reviewing applications for a family reality show featuring Lana Monroe. I'd like to ask you a few questions. I paused. Yes, I'm listening. The producer's voice held no judgment, only calm professionalism. You are Lana's biological sister, correct? Yes. And you were present at the recent Christmas party? Yes. We have received information that an inappropriate act involving a child occurred during that event. Can you confirm? I swallowed hard. Yes. My 6-month-old son was slapped by Lana while crying. I have evidence including photos, messages, and testimonies from other family members. Would you be willing to provide copies of this evidence? I will send them. But please understand, I have no intention of harming anyone. I only want to ensure that no other child suffers the same fate. Silence followed on the other end. Thank you. That is exactly what we need. 3 days later, as I was playing with Ethan in the backyard, the doorbell rang. Jackson was washing the car. I held Ethan and walked to the door. Lana stood outside. No longer the flawless makeup, no cameras, no warm lighting, just a disheveled woman with tear-streaked face. Why did you do this to me? She screamed. Why did you want to destroy me? I lost the show. I lost the brand deal. I lost everything. Before I could respond, Lana stepped closer, her finger shaking as she pointed at my face like someone losing control. You know, it was just a moment, a reflex. He was ruining the shot. You had to stop him somehow. Jackson, still standing by the car, raised his phone. I'm recording. You just admitted to intentionally stopping a crying baby during a shoot. Thank you. Lana froze. 1 second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds. Then she broke down crying. I said nothing. There was nothing more to say. The truth finally spoke for itself. And this time, it had someone to listen. 3 weeks after the confrontation, the television show was suspended indefinitely. Eric, the producer who had called, sent an email thanking me with a short line. The truth is not always pleasant. But if it helps protect a child, it's worth airing, even if only behind the scenes. Lana vanished from social media. Her Instagram wiped clean. Previous posts about family connection, happy moments, and holiday love were all removed. No more perfectly arranged props, no more staged lighting or smiles, just silence. My mother called back. This time, she did not deny. She did not cry or yell. She simply said, I have started therapy. For the first time in my life, I think maybe I was wrong. Not wrong in what I did, but wrong in doing nothing. I did not forgive immediately. But I was grateful. Because for the first time, she chose to face the truth. My father was different. He did not call. He did not text. He did not email. I saw him once, at a supermarket near home. He passed by, nodded. I nodded back. A small gesture, but no longer avoidance. It was a silent acknowledgement that something real had happened. Ethan's first birthday came on a sunny spring day. I chose to hold it in a small park near home. No silver balloons. No camera crew. No tiered cakes. Only a cake I made myself, banana oat, soft as a childhood dream where no one yells at a child for crying. There weren't many guests. Just Jackson's old comrades, those who called Ethan the little officer. There was the Italian neighbor who always brought bread every weekend. My best friend, the one who held me and cried with me at midnight when I started doubting myself. And Jackson, standing beside me, holding Ethan like a symbol of a new beginning. No one from my blood family came. And that was okay. I realized family doesn't have to be those who share your blood. Family is those who listen when you're hurt, believe you when you speak the truth, and stand by your side and no cameras needed. I looked at Ethan smiling, his tiny eyes shining in the sunset light. I whispered, You will not grow up to please anyone. You will not need to stay silent just to make others comfortable. You will grow up in a family not sharing blood, but sharing truth, trust, and unconditional love. I'm not saying I've completely forgiven. Forgiveness doesn't happen overnight, but I've chosen not to let the pain define me. Not to let fear steer the love I have for my child. I chose something greater: freedom. Freedom from expectations. Freedom from the role of the obedient daughter. Freedom to look into my child's eyes and know that I did not repeat what I once endured. And that night, as Ethan slept soundly in my arms, Jackson turned to me and asked, "Are you okay?" I nodded. "You didn't win. You didn't lose. You just stopped being silent." He squeezed my hand. No more words were needed. Sometimes, the strongest thing isn't accusation, it's silence no longer bought.